6 spine-chilling cases of the forbidden autopsy. Haunting truths about babies that never existed in the quiet town of Maplewood. There are secrets lurking like shadows in the moonlight, things that whisper trepidation into the hearts of its residents. Stories of 6 innocent babies who vanished into thin air have enveloped the community in a shroud of fear. The calm suburban streets, once lined with laughter and the pitter-patter of tiny feet, now echo an unsettling silence, an omen of the unthinkable. The first case involved a young mother, her eyes wild with panic, clutching a lifeless stork figurine as she recounted the last moments before her baby disappeared. The night was dark, almost too dark, as though the stars had chosen to hide. Then came 2 more cases, with families reporting their precious bundles snatched away as they slept, leaving only cold spots in their cribs. Before the week was out, the panic merged into a full-blown hysteria, overtaking the town like a suffocating fog. In hushed tones, folks spoke about the old hospital on the edge of town. Forbidden autopsies. They murmured, warping fear into gossip, a chilling possibility. As each dawn brought more whispers and sleepless nights, the town became almost unrecognizable. There was talk of strange dreams of shadows in the nursery, of cries that turned to silence. And just when hope hung by a thread, 6 lifeless figures appeared at families' doorsteps, pale as death but eerily still. Eyewitness accounts described a singular feeling something dark had returned. And as every mother's heart broke, only one question wove its way through the community. Why here? Why now? Sarah Whitley, a steadfast nurse and fierce single mother, felt the air thick with dread. The worry etched into her face grew deeper, mirroring the horror gripping her town. As if sensing her urgency, her skeptical brother Jamie, a logical thinker, reluctantly joined her into the heart of disarray. "This is nuts, Sarah," he said, shrugging off her chilling theories of the hospital's debauchery. Yet with every unsettling detail Sarah unveiled, his resolve wavered. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Halloween approached, even the joy of trick-or-treating turned into an undercurrent of dread. Masks were no longer whimsical. They were a veil for terror. But something odd was happening in Sarah's own home. Marks began appearing on her son's delicate skin, fiery red against the pallor of his soft flesh. She shuddered at the implications. This was more than a backdrop for her fears. This was personal. She could feel it, a warning, a precursor to the darkness creeping its way into their lives. Days piled upon each other, and the pieces of the past began to paint a bleak picture. As she braved the crumbling building of the hospital, an artifact caught her eye, a journal, stained with age and despair. Heart pounding, she flipped through the brittle pages. The entries screamed of madness and a chilling obsession with resurrection. The specter's intent sharpened into focus. Something from the past was converging upon the present. Whatever had returned those babies to Maplewood wasn't satisfied. Her blood ran cold with the realization that the next target may be closer than she could bear to imagine. A storm brewed in the distance, rolling clouds promising thunder and chaos. Sarah stood by the window, staring out as gusts of wind whipped leaves into a frenzied dance. Each rustle resonated in her gut, tightening like a vice. Her son, little Jason, played on the floor, his giggles a stark contrast to the shadows threatening their existence. But those pesky crimson marks, she couldn't shake the image from her mind. "Mommy!" Jason squealed, eagerness gleaming in his eyes. But his laugh felt haunted, twisted. The air crackled with tension, as if it, too, anticipated the storm ahead. "Yeah, sweetheart?" She forced a smile, but the pit of dread was insatiable. "Can we carve pumpkins tonight?" He clutched a small, orange gourd, grinning wide. "Sure, honey," she said, her voice unsteady. "Let us make it fun." But as the evening drew closer, The weight of her fears wrapped around her heart. The stars didn't dare show themselves, hiding behind dark clouds. Before long, the doorbell rang, a sharp sound in the suffocating silence. Who could that be? She cast a worried glance at Jamie, who was deep in thought, pacing back and forth in the cramped living room. It's probably the neighbors. In this atmosphere, who knows? He waved it off. With reluctant steps, Sarah opened the door, heart pounding. Standing there, drenched in rain, was a figure she couldn't recognize. A woman, soaked to the skin, with wild hair and eyes wide with terror. Please, you have to help me. The woman's voice shook as if she had been through hell. It's coming for my baby. Took him ma. Are you okay? Sarah's body went rigid, instinct telling her to shut the door. But something about the desperation in the woman's gaze kept her anchored. They're not just gone. The woman whispered. They're back. It brings them back cold and lifeless. A chill swept through the air, cutting deeper than the autumn wind. What do you mean? Jamie stepped forward, now alert, eyeing the woman suspiciously. I saw the light. I thought it was my son back, she wailed, crumpling to the floor. But it's not him. Just a shell. It's not a resurrection. It's a curse. As panic threatened to overtake Sarah, Jamie pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. But the storm struck hard, the lights flickering ominously. Do you think the hospital is tied to this? Please, you have to believe me, the woman pleaded. I don't know. Sarah shouted over the thunder, her heart racing against chaos. But we have to get to the bottom of this. Suddenly, Jason's innocent voice cut through the turmoil. Mommy, what's wrong? The woman turned, her eyes widening as she saw the child. No, not him. Not again. A rush of fear overwhelmed Sarah as she grabbed Jason, pulling him close. What the hell was happening? As the wind howled louder, another crack of thunder swallowed the room. But this time it was accompanied by a distant, haunting lullaby that seeped through the windows, filling the air with an unsettling calm. What was this melody? Where was it coming from? Sarah, Jamie whispered, voice trembling. We have to get out of here. But as they turned to flee, the door slammed shut, a supernatural force locking them in. With hearts racing and fear suffocating, they knew one thing for certain. The darkness wanted them, and it was only a matter of time before it came for everything they cherished. But there was a flicker of a chance. If they deciphered the whispers of the past, they might just escape the grip of the curse. As the room dimmed, the lullaby grew louder. Whatever was out there was closer than they ever imagined. What would they uncover as the storm raged on? The lullaby twisted around them, a chilling melody that felt like the very breath of someone long gone, pulling at Sarah's heartstrings. Each note hovered in the air, reverberating with memories she wasn't sure were hers. The weight of the storm surged, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable. Mommy, I'm scared. Jason's small hands gripped her shirt, his pulse quickening with each clap of thunder. Shoo, baby, it's okay, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she scanned the room, desperate for a sign of safety. But as her eyes darted back to the figure on the floor, she noticed the woman who had once been frantic now stared blankly at Jason, her face shadowed with a morbid fascination. I've seen those eyes before, she breathed, her lips peeling back to reveal a crooked smile that sent icy tendrils down Sarah's spine. Get away from him, Jamie yelled, instinctively stepping in front of Jason. What do you want? He's special, the woman crooned, her voice almost nurturing now, as if she were cradling a baby, not a child. He can go where they cannot. He can bring them back. No, Sarah screamed, feeling a wave of darkness crash over them. You're lying. Stay away from my son. She pulled Jason closer, desperation surging through her veins. As the wind howled outside, rattling the windows, the lights flickered again. Every time they dimmed, shadows inched closer, lurking on the edges of her vision. Jamie fumbled with his phone, but the screens went black, the metallic click of the buttons sounding like a death knell. They're all here. They want to play. The woman's laughter echoed, high-pitched and eerie, filled with the kind of madness that shattered the air around them. The hospital, Jamie muttered, fury and fear intertwining on his face. It has to be linked. This can't be happening. Don't you see? The woman's eyes were wild, flashing with a glimmer of hope mingled with despair. They're awakened by the storm. Their essay bond between the living and the dead, and your boy is the key. Shut up, Sarah screamed, every instinct telling her to protect Jason at all costs. She backed away from the woman, retreating toward the kitchen door, scanning for an escape. But before she could reach it, a sudden crash filled the room. A gust of wind forced the window open, a blinding flash of lightning illuminating the shadows. For an instant, Sarah thought she saw faces, twisted and fighting against the glass, mouths moving but without sound. Do you hear it? The woman pressed on, her voice rising over the chaos. The lullaby? They're calling to him. It's a summons. What are you saying? Jamie snapped, his eyes darting around, tension coiling in his shoulders. We can't let this then. The lullaby grew louder, intertwining with another sound. Familiar yet nightmarish soft cries of children, echoing with a chilling clarity. No, please, Sarah shouted, her heart pounding painfully against her ribcage. Jason clutched her tighter, his small frame trembling. This has to stop. The woman rose slowly, a chilling calm settling over her. It won't stop until it has what it wants. And tonight, the storm will dictate everything. The lights flickered again, plunging them into darkness. In that silence, the haunting cries mixed with laughter, an unbearable cacophony of joy and despair created by souls longing for peace in the void of sound. Sarah felt something break inside her. The realization crashed over her. They were already ensnared in a web spun by the storm and those that lingered beyond. Get out! Run! Jamie yelled, suddenly rushing toward the door. But the moment his hand touched the handle, it twisted back, sealing them inside with the echoes of the past. As desperation coursed, Sarah realized they were out of time. The walls reverberated with the lullaby's final notes climaxing in a haunting crescendo. It was a warning or a promise, one she couldn't decipher. But whatever it was, it hung in the air, sweet and suffocating. What awaited them on the other side of the door? Would the storm finally reveal the secrets hidden beneath its fury? Or would they become another echo in its dark, twisted tale? The shadows swirled, stretching like sinister fingers toward Sarah and Jason as the last flicker of light was extinguished. Heart racing, Sarah felt her world narrow to the frantic heartbeat in her chest. She couldn't let fear consume her. Not now. But with the maniacal laughter still echoing in her ears, it was hard not to falter. Stick close to me, Jason, she commanded, her voice gaining strength in her resolve. The darkness became a palpable enemy, thick enough to slice through with a knife. They were a small island of trembling flesh amidst a seething abyss. The woman's voice, unsettlingly calm, cut through the blackened space. He is destined for greatness. Just listen to the lullaby, let it guide you. Stop, Jamie shouted, his desperation rising higher than the storm outside. You're manipulating us. Let him go. He moved to the side, trying to block Jason from the woman. But the shadows seemed to breathe around him, tightening their grip, like a noose tightening with every movement. With the overpowering sense that something twisted hunched behind the veil of night, Sarah tugged on Jason's hand. Back away from her. Her eyes darted around, searching, hoping for a break, a moment of clarity. Against the chaos, a thought flickered across her mind like a candle in the wind. What if it responds to Jason? She murmured, half to herself, half to Jamie. What if he somehow calls them? Jamie's eyes widened, a mix of horror and realization. No, we can't risk that. But the woman only chuckled, the tone dripping with malevolence. You underestimate the power of the innocent. They hear the music too suddenly. The wind outside roared like a beast awakened, crashing against the windows, and the shadows danced more vigorously. Sarah braced herself, feeling the panic strangle her throat. This wasn't just a storm. It was a reckoning. Jason. She knelt down, clutching his face in her hands. You must promise me no matter what you hear, you must stay with me. Her voice broke, but she pushed forward. If you hear whispers, if you feel tempted, you tell me. Do you understand? He nodded solemnly, his big eyes glistening with fear. I will, Mommy. I promise without warning. The lullaby surged, twining around them with a new tenacity. It morphed into a wailing chorus of children's voices that chilled Sarah to her core. They weren't just whispers anymore. They were pleading, calling for their mother, their sister, someone to soothe them. The shadows coalesced into a shape, huddling towards Jason, stretching and warping, hungry for something Sarah couldn't see but felt in the marrow of her bones. She pulled Jason closer, wrapping her arms around him as if to shield him from the souls that danced in the dark. Leave him alone, she screamed, adrenaline pushing her voice to heights she didn't know she could reach. The figure of the woman seemed to melt into the shadows, merging into darkness completely, with only a pair of piercing eyes remaining. Do you wish to know what they would say? What power lies within your child? Jason whimpered, burying his face in her shoulder. Stay away, Jamie roared, his body tense, fists clenched, ready to fight anything that came near. We will not let you harm him. But the air shifted cold, and then silence swept through the room, choking them with the weight of despair and unanswered questions. The lullaby faded, replaced by the sounds of the storm and the soft patter of rain that dripped like tears. Sarah's instincts screamed that they were running out of time, and the haunting stillness told her that something terrible was about to happen. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated. The lights flickered back to life, illuminating the room just long enough for her to see the chaos unfold. Shadows swirling in a vortex, tugging at Jason's small frame, reaching for his tiny hands. Mommy, he cried, terror flooding his voice. You have to listen to me, she screamed, desperation clawing at her. Don't let them pull you away. At that moment, she noticed the haunting yellow eyes were glimmering not just with malice, but mirth as well. What is this? Sarah whispered, horror dawning. There was something familiar about it. Something she couldn't place in that flash of clarity. She saw the image of a child. Not just any child. A child she thought she had lost forever. With life and death teetering dangerously close, she had to confront the truth. The storm had awakened something deep within her, a realization that could alter everything. Bring them back or I'll make them regret it, she promised, knowing fully the sacrifice the promise entailed. That as Jason's figure began to flicker in the looming shadows, asking herself the one question that clawed at her insides. What if the past was calling for a reckoning tonight? A stark truth hung in the air like the deafening rumble of thunder. Would Sarah's desperate wish shatter the fragile barrier between past and present, or ignite a darkness she may never comprehend? The thunder answered, loud and clear, and all she could do was brace for the storm ahead. The vortex tightened around Jason, pulling him inch by inch, as if the darkness itself conspired against them. Sarah's heart raced, every beat a drum of desperation echoing in the stillness. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, grasping Jason's arm as if her grip alone could anchor him to reality. Hold on to me. Her voice, barely more than a whisper, hung precariously in the air. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if startled by her audacity. But it was fleeting. A low growl reverberated from the depths of darkness, taunting and mocking. Your bravado means nothing here, dear Sarah. The lullaby weighs heavy on his soul. It's calling to him. The woman's voice surged again, slithering into the room like smoke, seducing them with promises unspoken. Just as the walls felt like they would crush in, a flicker of light surged through the room, illuminating a snapshot of hell. Faces twisted and anguished emerged from the shadows, countless eyes, filled with longing and sorrow, gazing hungrily at Jason. One face pierced through, fragile and ghostly. The image of the child Sarah believed she'd lost was now unmistakably clear. A pale, cherubic face framed with dark curls, eyes bright with innocence. It sent a chill down her spine. Is that you? Sarah's voice trembled, snatched by the powerful tides of recognition and heartache. Was the child lost to her returning? Or was this yet another cruel trick played by the shadows? Don't look, Mommy, Jason cried out, squirming as he strained against the oppressive force seeking to pull him away. "I'm right here. Don't let go," she shouted, her heart pounding. The whispered lullaby morphed into anguished cries, and Sarah felt the air grow thick with despair. Each wail struck her like a punch to the gut, depleting her strength. "Let him go," Jamie shouted, a wild determination igniting his rage. But the shadows shrieked back, wrapping tighter around his limbs, holding him back while he fought against the unseen grip. The figure that was once a woman slithered closer, her eyes flickering with something sinister. "You wish to resurrect what no longer exists, but nothing is forgotten in this realm. Jason." Sarah felt desperate tears swell in her eyes. She wouldn't lose him. Not to the darkness, not to illusions. "You're more than just a vessel for lost souls. You are so much stronger." Her voice pierced through Jason's terror, drawing him back, even amidst the swirling darkness around him. He turned his teary gaze towards her, his spirit hanging between fear and faith. "Mommy, I can feel them. Their voices, they want me to come." "No," she interrupted, her heart wrenching at the idea. "Don't listen. They can't reach you as long as you listen to me. You are alive and they are shadows." The wind howled ferociously, drowning out the sounds of the specters. Then the shadows screeched, a cacophony of despair, clashing violently with her words. But beneath it all, a whisper of defiance began to bloom. "Let the shadows know the truth," Sarah urged, each word laced with unyielding determination. "You are loved. You are not meant for their darkness, Jason. Fight. Fight for us, for yourself." And in that moment, something shifted. A flicker of light emanated from Jason, growing brighter until it cut through the shadows like a beacon, illuminating faces filled with malicious hunger. The yellow eyes twisted and shrank back, momentarily blinded by the light that flowed from him, a light that surged with the love Sarah poured into him. But in the heavy atmosphere, the woman's voice returned, more shrill than ever. "This is but a distraction. You think you can ignite hope from despair? The past yearns for its due." The shadows drawn towards Jason writhed and twisted, desperate to reclaim their prize. And just when Sarah thought they had a chance, the light flickered at the edges, threatening to dim. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jason whimpered, clutching her tighter, desperation radiating from his tiny frame. "No, don't let it in." Panic surged within her again. The darkness remained relentless, looming closer, whispering sweet. "Nothing's laced with venom." Sarah's heart wrenched as she recalled the familiar face from moments before. The child she missed every day was now a thread tying her to the lurking shadows. Would she have to sacrifice the fight for her son to save a ghost from the past? "I will do anything to protect you," she shouted, her voice breaking, teetering on the edge of collapse. What was the price for defiance against the darkness? Suddenly, the familiar child's face flickered in the light once more, beckoning. It spun like a restless wind, words tumbling through the air like lost leaves. The moment stretched and time froze. Would Sarah's fight be enough, or would the shadows engulf them both, drowning out their cries? And just outside the veil, thunder cracked loudly, caught between a storm and the uncertain silence of fate, waiting for a decisive action that could shift everything. What was to come would change everything they understood about love, loss, and the power of choice amidst encroaching despair. Was there still hope to wrest Jason from the shadows, or had the price for their freedom already been set? The shadows recoiled as Jason's light flickered beneath the weight of desperation. The battle between love and darkness tearing at the very fabric of their reality. Sarah's heart raced like a rickety train, darting through the chilling landscape of terror that stretched around them. Each wail from the abyss resonated violently, echoing off the walls like a funeral dirge. "Jason, breathe for me," she urged. She could feel the warmth of his small body, yet the coldness of fear seeped into every corner of her mind. He needed her, and she needed to reach him. As if sensing the shift, the woman from the shadows grinned, her teeth gleaming against the black backdrop. "You believe in the strength of love. How quaint. But love cannot summon the dead." Sarah could almost taste the darkness seep into her very bones, bitter and constricting. She thought of Jason's laughter, the way it used to fill their home with light. If there was any force strong enough to withstand this nightmare, it was that. Listen, Jason, remember when we used to sing together? How we pretend the voices in the wind were just the trees talking. Sarah's words rushed out, desperate and vivid, her mind racing to conjure memories that would bind them together, stronger than the shadows. But Jason shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. Mommy, I want to go to her. She's waiting. No. The single word screamed from her throat, raw with anguish. The shadows leaped forward, closing in. The room seemed smaller, swirling in a disorienting dance. Time was running out. You love her. But she's not here. Sweetheart, this is a lie. Look at me. I am here. For a fleeting moment, Jason's light flickered brighter, wavering against the all-consuming dark. It caught the eyes of the specters surrounding him, their malicious hunger morphing into rage. You are tethered by the chains of grief, Sarah. Give in and he will be free. Free? To become one of you? She spat the words, every letter laced with fire. The shadows rippled, their form twisting in response to her defiance, as though her very essence ignited something in them. Fear. Don't listen to them, Jason, she yelled, her throat raw, but she couldn't stop. Your past can't take you. They're using your love against you. You matter. The whirling chaos grew louder, a storm of voices battling within her own heart. Somewhere in the turmoil, she could hear the familiar giggles that echoed lovingly in her mind, the echoes of what once was. She held onto that spark. Her heart was a fortress of hope amidst despair. Mommy, Jason's voice called again. I can feel them pulling in that moment. Sarah felt the air grow thick with impending doom. The shadows surged, clamoring for Jason, but the fragile light surrounding him clashed against their approach. She knew the truth. She could lose everything. But could she sacrifice her son's happiness to shield him from this darkness? Please, just look at me. Tears streamed down Sarah's face, desperation thickening her voice. Stay with me. Fight for me. Fight for your life, Jason. The shadows shrieked, pushing back against the light that flickered from her son. They formed tendrils, thin and sinewy, reaching for Jason like grasping hands, desperate to pull him into their embrace. Each second felt like an eternity. Then, with a surge of strength Sarah didn't know she had, she shouted, You are not alone. I love you, and I believe in you. You are my son, and you are stronger than the darkness. Jason looked at her, a battleground of emotions flickering in his eyes. As the palpable tension built, something extraordinary began to happen. A radiant burst of light surged like a wildfire from Jason, engulfing the figures of despair around him. The shadows shrieked, contorting in pain as the light expanded. Mommy, Jason cried, his spirit ignited, eyes wide with unwavering resolve. I'm not afraid. The power of their combined love surged forth, pushing back against the shadows that feasted on sorrow. But just as Jason's light began to shatter the darkness, a deep rumble echoed through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. Foolish mortals, the woman hissed, retreating momentarily but not without a final flourish. This is but the first act. You think you have won? The darkness you face knows no bounds. It is only the beginning. And just as the shadows pulled back, the bright light shattering their hold, a crack thundered across the room, signaling the arrival of an even greater threat. What do you mean? Sarah trailed off, the realization hitting her like a heavy weight over the chaos. Something ancient whispered through the darkness, icy fingers crawling across her skin, pulling at the very edges of her sanity. What had she unleashed? What darkness still loomed? A chilling wind howled outside, cold and relentless. Sarah could feel the world shifting around them, the ground trembling beneath her feet. As the whispers of the past stirred once more, she knew the real challenge was only just beginning. What more did the dark forces have in store for them? In that moment, Sarah felt a knot of fear tighten in her chest. What true price would they pay for defiance? And could Jason's emerging strength be enough to withstand whatever was coming next? The tension thickened like fog as Sarah held her breath, fearing the shadows would reclaim their hold. The world around her warped, the light flickering like a dying ember amidst stormy winds. Jason's defiance ignited something in her, a spark of determination she didn't know existed. But just then, a sharp, icy laugh pierced through the air, slicing through their moment of triumph. "You are blind to the truth, Sarah," the woman sneered, her voice dripping with malice. "You think love can insulate you from the inevitable? Love only beckons the darkness to feast." Jason glanced at Sarah, vulnerability flashing in his wide eyes. "Mommy, what does she mean?" His small hands trembled slightly as he gripped his mother's arm. The warmth of his touch was everything she needed, grounding her, anchoring her to reality. "She's lying," Sarah insisted, her voice trembling but full of resolve. "We're stronger than this." Yet the shadows were restless, boiling around them, feeding off the uncertainty in her heart. As if summoned by some dark will, tendrils of darkness slithered toward Jason, slick and sinuous. The air grew colder, wrapping around them like a shroud. Before she could react, Jason stepped forward, bravely holding his ground. "You won, take me," he shouted, lighting up the room with a dazzling glow that sent a wave of warmth across Sarah's face. It radiated from his core, a beautiful beacon battling against the chill of despair. But just as the shadows hesitated, they recoiled as though struck by his light. The woman's laughter twisted into a scream, and raged thunderous, full of fury. "You think you can resist? There is so much more to fear than you realize. There are fissures in reality that we can exploit." With that, a shadow surged forward, larger than before, morphing into a monstrous form. Its face was distorted, menacing and grotesque, eyes hollow and endless, mouth wide, ready to swallow the last vestiges of hope. Sarah gasped, her heart racing like a drum in her chest, every instinct screaming for her to protect her son. "Stay back," she shouted, stepping into Jason's light, arms raised protectively. "You won't harm him." The shadows twisted and writhed, but stayed at bay for now, recoiling from the light. "Foolish woman," the creature hissed, its voice slithering like smoke. "You think this light can stop the void?" But just when despair threatened to pull them under, she remembered the depth of their bond, something more potent than mere light. It was love that had bound them, anchored them in shared joys and sorrows. She called to it, urging it forth. "Jason, hold my hand, and remember we're together." Jason's palm felt warm and steady in hers. She could feel the mounting energy, a crescendo of hope rising between them. "Together," he echoed, and the room sparkled with brilliance. The shadows hissed, trapped by their unity. The ground beneath them trembled again as a fierce wind coursed through, screaming through the cracks of reality, determined to fracture their resolve. But Sarah pushed against it, her muscles taut with effort. Then, the voice of the woman broke through once more, high-pitched and frantic. "You have only awakened the true terror. The nexus of oblivion stirs." A sudden blinding light erupted, causing Sarah to shield her eyes. When she opened them again, the scene around them had shifted dramatically. No longer just a room. They stood on the edge of an abyss, a swirling void, unfathomable and dark, pulling at the very threads of existence. "What have we unleashed?" she whispered, the weight of dread settling in her chest like a stone. And as fear clawed at her heart, a new sound rose up, a distant rumble, unmistakably alive, a harbinger of dread that conjured the ghosts of forgotten secrets. What lay beyond the dark? Would their love ignite the way forward or consume them entirely? The unforgiving waves of shadows crashed in around them, threatening to swallow them whole. As they teetered on the edge of all they knew, the world began to tremble in anticipation of what lurked just beyond the edge of oblivion. The abyss stretched before them, a gaping maw of despair that pulsed with dark energy. Jason squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, his small fingers trembling. She could see the shadow of fear flickering across his innocent face, and it stabbed at her heart like a knife. This was no ordinary fear. It was primal, echoing the dark myths whispered around campfires. "Mommy," Jason's voice caught in his throat, and he peered into the swirling darkness, as if it held the answers to secrets untold. His wide eyes reflected the void, and for a moment, she was afraid he might be swallowed whole by that restless emptiness. "Look at me, Jason." She forced her voice to be steady, even as waves of cold fear gripped her. "We're together. That's what matters. We must not let it break us." At her words, the shadows writhed and twisted, the abyss swelling as if in response to their bond. The air crackled with electricity, a tension thick enough to choke them. Then, without warning, the figure of the woman emerged from the darkness. Her face twisted in an eerie grin that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. "You play with fire, sweet Sarah," she sang, her voice a haunting melody laced with malice. "Do you not realize what you are testing? This is not merely darkness. This is the nexus, the wellspring of despair." "I don't fear you," Sarah shouted, her voice rising against the din of the void. "You're just an echo of what doesn't belong here." The woman tilted her head, a mockery of curiosity etching itself into her features. "Brave girl, filled with love. But love cannot shield you from what lies beyond the veil of reality." With a flick of her wrist, shadows slithered, morphing into specters' faces twisted in anguish, reaching out, their mouths opening in soundless screams. Sarah's heart raced. They were not just illusions. They once lived, felt, and succumbed to the very void that sought to claim her. "Mommy, help!" Jason's voice quivered as he took a step back, his eyes wide and desperate. The shadows began to coalesce around him, forming a protective cocoon that throbbed with an icy pulse. "No!" Panic crashed over Sarah like a tidal wave. She surged forward, breaking free of her own fear. "You won't take him." In that moment, all her love, her fierce protectiveness, ignited into a blinding light that spread from her heart. It burst forth, tangible like fire, forming a barrier against the encroaching shadows. Jason's glow pulsed in time with hers, the two energies intertwining harmoniously, illuminating the dark in waves of brilliant warmth. But the shadows lunged relentlessly. The creatures, twisted remnants of sorrow, flared and flickered, drawn to the light like moths to a flame. Their hollow eyes burned with hunger, yearning to devour every spark of hope. From the depths of the abyss, a monstrous roar shattered the air, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. "Flee! Flee!" came the disembodied echoes of countless voices, lost to time and despair. "You awaken forces unknown. What does that mean?" Sarah shouted, her voice drowning in the cacophony of horror. "Mommy!" Jason cried out again, fear cutting through the warmth between them. They were teetering on the edge of a precipice, the ground beneath them cracking like brittle glass. The shadows writhed, testing the very bonds they had forged. What choice did they have? "Together," she whispered, her heart pounding. "Together," he echoed fiercely, and they squeezed each other's hands tighter, unaware of how close they were to a choice that would change everything. The shadows writhed, growing desperate and furious. Just then, Sarah glimpsed an opening in the darkness, a flicker of light at the heart of the chaos. But it came with a cost, the price of truth shrouded in pain. "Ready?" she asked, breathless. Fear flickered in the depths of her eyes, battling against hope that surged within her. Behind them, the woman's laughter turned into a howl of agony, as if they were creating a crack in her hold. "You'll regret going after it. You dare defy the void? Watch us!" Sarah shouted defiantly, ready to leap into the unknown. But as they stepped toward the flickering beacon, a terrible realization washed over Sarah. What if it wasn't salvation they defined, but the horrifying truth buried within their own souls? The abyss yawned larger, breathing in shadows and light alike, caught in a deadly dance of fate. "Mommy, wait!" What had they just set in motion? The echoes of the past were not finished with them yet. And in that moment of dread and determination, they realized. The abyss wouldn't wait forever. The light flickered like a candle about to be snuffed out, barely illuminating the swirling shadows that threatened to engulf them. The moment stretched, each heartbeat magnified in the silence, raw and palpable. Sarah and Jason stood at the precipice of revelation, their souls tethered to a desperate hope. But the abyss seemed to pulse with menace, as though it could sense their hesitation. "Mommy!" Jason's small voice trembled. "What if it's a trap?" His innocence wrapped around Sarah like a fragile glass, beautiful yet dangerously vulnerable. She felt the weight of his trust pressing down upon her, an unbearable burden in the face of such darkness. "No, we can't back down now," she insisted, pushing the fear deep inside. "We have to go toward the light. It's the only chance we have." The shadows howled, an unearthly cacophony rising like a storm around them. Those agonized faces twisted in silence, drawing nearer, their once human forms now nothing more than echoes of despair. It was as if the void were mocking them, daring them to step into the unknown. With a swift, decisive breath, Sarah squeezed Jason's hand even tighter. "It's going to be okay. Remember our stories? The ones about bravery? This is just like that. We're the heroes, Jason. We face the shadows and we win." Jason stared up at her, his eyes glimmering with a cocktail of fear and faith. "Okay together," he whispered, and for a moment, the flicker of resolve in his eyes lent strength to her own. They stepped forward, urgency wrapping around them like a shroud. The light shone brighter now, flickering with promise while shadows writhed, angry at their defiance. As they moved closer, a chilling whisper curled in the edges of Sarah's consciousness. "You won tea like what you find." Her heart raced. The words sank deep, rattling her resolve. Yet she pressed on, drawing Jason with her. Just a few more steps. Deep breaths. The landscape of the abyss shifted, the ground trembling beneath and sending waves of darkness rolling in every direction. In that moment of chaos, the light exploded into brilliance, illuminating a path through the void. But what they saw froze their hearts. There awaiting them were figures shrouded in spectral light, each one a painful reflection of unfulfilled lives. Sarah choked back a gasp. They looked like babies? Tiny faces, stitched from sorrow, gazed back at them with wide, yearning eyes. Voices echoed around them, singing lullabies tinged with melancholy and loss. The truth of their existence hung heavy in the air, a connection to every unspoken grief the world tried to forget. "Mommy, it's so sad." Jason's voice cracked, his small frame trembling. "Why are they here?" Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes as she looked to those innocent faces. Each one carried a shard of heartache, a fragment of what should have been. "I don't know, sweetheart," she whispered, "but we have to be brave. They need us to see them." But the dark woman's laughter rang out, low and haunting. "You already know the answer. They're the lost, the forbidden. Would you give voice to them, sweet Sarah? Would you bravely speak their names?" As her heart thundered, Sarah realized the price of their journey. To step fully into the light, they would have to confront the painful truth of love, loss, and the shadows dwelling within. The figures around them began to shift, blurring the line between anguish and hope. "Mommy, they're reaching for us," Jason gasped, fear mixed with a desperate urgency. The abyss seemed to close in around them, the woman's laughter swelling as if the void celebrated their weakening resolve. The shadows became stark, threatening to swallow them whole. Just on the edge of that flickering light, a piercing question rang through the tumult. "What will you choose to believe?" As they stood suspended between hope and despair, an unsettling truth gripped Sarah's heart. Every step taken might open Pandora's box, unleashing the darkest secrets they had long buried. What truth awaited them? It felt closer now, wrapped in those luminous specters that whispered back to her. In that moment, overcome by the weight of their shared journey, Sarah realized they were not just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for the lost dreams of countless lives. And in that fragile instant, she knew they were about to make the hardest choice of all. Would they dare to harness the power of the truth, even if it broke them apart forever? In the depths of the abyss, shadows stirred, more gathered ready to confront what lay hidden in their hearts. Would they face the unbearable or simply retreat into the darkness? The answers echoed, daunting and pulling. Together they softened their grip, ready to leap into the unimaginable void. But the abyss was hungry, and time was running out. The storm raged outside, pounding against the walls with a cruel determination as Sarah and Jason faced the truth they dreaded. The luminous figures reached out to them, their tiny faces etched with longing and sorrow. Each flicker of light mirrored the desperation inside Sarah's heart. She suddenly understood. These were the lost souls of the children taken from Maplewood, the souls that had never known the warmth of a loving embrace. They needed her voice, her bravery to acknowledge them. "Mommy, I want to help them," Jason whispered, his voice quaking with emotion. He peered into the swirling darkness where the shadows breathed and writhed. But how? Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she knelt beside him, her heart aching for the lost babies, each one deserving of recognition. "We have to remember them, Jason. We have to give them the names they never had." In that moment, the shadows lurched forward as if alarmed by their commitment, a deep, guttural growl vibrating through the air. "You dare question the void?" The woman shrieked, her voice slicing through the tension. "Their memory is forgotten for a reason. You will unleash what should stay buried." Shoving the fear deep within her, Sarah shook her head defiantly. "No, they deserve to be remembered." She turned to the gathered figures, her heart swelling with love and pain. "You are seen. You are loved." One by one, she began to speak the names she felt in her soul, the names of all the children lost to the shadows. Emily, Jake, Sophia, David. With each name, a warm light exploded from their tiny spirits, pushing back against the shadows. The figures smiled, their joy palpable. They were no longer forgotten. The woman's visage twisted into rage, shadows recoiling and writhing as if they were caught in a furious gale. "You foolish girl. You assumed their release would mean salvation?" "Yes," Jason piped up, his voice stronger than before, fueling the bright energy swirling around them. "They need to be free. They won't be shadows anymore." A blinding light erupted as more names were spoken, laughter now mingling with the lullabies. It was an ache of grief transforming into pure music. The energy grew, illuminating the once ominous abyss. But something shifted. The shadows fought back, clawing furiously at the edges, trying to reclaim their lost lambs. "Let them go. They deserve their peace," Sarah shouted, standing tall against the oncoming darkness, clutching Jason's hand tight. "Return to your rightful places." The shadows screeched, twisting in rage. But their cries crumbled beneath the weight of love gathering in waves, lifting the spirits up from sorrow like petals in a spring breeze. "Keep going, Mommy," Jason urged, eyes bright with determination. Together, they harmonized their voices, calling out to the lost ones, sending them into the light. The air vibrated, a tangible force, as hope surged through Sarah's soul. The woman screeched, madness gripping her features. "You think you've won? This is only the beginning. All shall return to the void." But her cries were drowned out, overtaken by the joyous support of the ethereal beings. One by one, the babies, once mere whispers in the dark, stepped into their soft glow, transforming into pure, radiant light. They twinkled like stars breaking through the night sky, each a celebration of life reborn as the last echo of laughter faded. Sarah felt a powerful stillness wash over her. The storm outside began to recede, pulling back its claws and retreating like a bad memory fading into dawn. The shadows shrank away, surrendering to the overwhelming light, abandoning their grip on Jason and Sarah. "I did it. We did it," Jason exclaimed, his eyes wide with joy, filled with pure exuberance. "Yes, my love. We set them free." Sarah's breath hitched, the bittersweet weight of realization dawning upon her. The struggle was over, but what was lost was still heavy in her heart. The shadows dissolved, collapsing into a void of silence, leaving only the warmth of the newfound light. The dark woman disintegrated into nothingness, her final words a haunting echo, warning them of the shadows that would remain. But now, hope pulsed in their hearts, and Sarah knew that their love had conquered despair as they emerged from the abyss. The sun cast a golden hue across Maplewood, heralding a new dawn. The trees swayed gently in a breeze, whispering secrets of love and life. They walked hand in hand, no longer tethered to the darkness that once threatened to claim them. In the distance, Laughter returned to the quiet streets, hope woven through the fabric of their community. They may have lost those babies to the shadows, but they had also given them a voice and a final farewell. Love, Sarah realized, was a force more powerful than any darkness, capable of rising above even the deepest despair. Together, they had conquered the void, stepping forward into a world that promised both healing and remembrance. And as they turned their backs on the storm, Sarah whispered to Jason, "Always bring the light, my sweet boy. Together, we'll shine brighter than any shadow that comes our way." Together, they embraced the unknown with open arms, ready to cherish the memories past and carve new ones for their future, one filled with love, laughter, and light. Now, if you enjoyed this spine-tingling journey with Sarah and Jason, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the stories coming your way. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us know what you think about their battle against the darkness. And lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. This is the moment to show your support.